One of the reasons why academic writing can be so difficult is that you probably have so much knowledge and so many ideas that you don't know where to start. Now, some people will tell you to just get words down on the page because this gives you something to work with, but this doesn't solve the problem. And without any guiding principles, you can end up in a cycle of endless drafts, shuffling ideas around and hoping that they somehow land in a coherent structure. And if you know a little physics and understand entropy, this is extremely unlikely to happen by chance. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the secret to structure in academic writing. This is a simple principle that can apply to any project in any academic field and can save you months or even years of stress, while also making your writing much easier for a reader to follow. And the secret lies in the relationship between ideas. So it's not enough to just include all of the relevant information. It's about how one idea fits into the context of what you've already said and how it helps you to lead the reader in the direction you want to take them. And at the most basic level, we have these elements. So we have situations, which provide a context for the information that you give. These situations often give rise to problems, which then prompt responses. And those responses might directly solve the problem, or, as is more often the case, they create more problems, raise new questions, or give rise to new situations. Now, these relationships are extremely versatile and can be applied to any project because they are the foundation of all storytelling. And because we are storytelling creatures, using this kind of structure allows you to convey complex information in a way that's very easy to follow. So ideally, even if somebody forgets or doesn't understand much of the detail, if a piece is well structured, then they should still be able to remember the basic story. And this is why people can remember what happened in a movie they watched years ago. So they might forget all of the detail, but they remember the basic shape of the story and the main characters and the key events, because we're hardwired to have this ability. So let's have a look at an example of this principle from my own thesis. So in traditional optical microscopy, where the distance from the sample surface to the collection optics is many times the wavelength of the light, only the propagating component of the field is detected, and the detailed surface information contained within the near field is lost. So, what we have here, ignoring the technical language, is at a basic level just a situation and a problem. So, traditional microscopy is limited in some way. And this problem provides both context and a motivation for the response. So in 1928, Singe proposed a means to extend microscopy beyond the diffraction limits by scanning a screen with a small aperture over a sample surface within the near field zone. Though the principle was proven experimentally using microwave radiation in the early 1970s, the technology was not available to implement this idea using visible wavelengths until the scanning probe microscope allowed ultrafine sample detector distance control. This technique is known as scanning near-field optical microscopy, or SNOM. So again, ignoring the technical detail, what we have is an initial response with the theoretical concept and experimental validation, but then we have a new problem in that the technology didn't exist to test it with shorter wavelengths. And then a new technology came along which made it possible. And what we end up with is a new technique, or we could see it as a new situation, which then gives rise to a whole host of opportunities, which leads to new problems and new questions. So even if you understand none of the technical detail, the underlying story is easy to understand because it's the same kind of story you see in all kinds of academic fields. And it might seem counterintuitive, but having this kind of structure in place makes it much easier to edit in that you can add or remove detail, for example, by saying more about Synge's theory or about the experiments in the 1970s without altering the underlying structure. And to take this to the next level, if there are lots of alternative responses, for example, there's literature describing different theories or techniques, instead of just describing them one by one, if you put the problem that they're trying to solve first, then this naturally provides a link between them and gives the reader a reason to be interested. Now, this idea is simple in principle, but of course it takes a lot of practice. And the best way to practice and to develop a new skill is to do so in a low pressure, low stakes setting. When stressed, it is much harder to learn new skills or to solve problems because we tend to revert to established patterns. So, to practice in a lower stakes setting, the good thing is that because these principles of structure are universal, you can apply them and practice them anytime you write anything. So let's say you want to email an update to your supervisor. You could start with the situation. So let's say you've just finished this set of experiments and you're about to start working on this next thing. But then maybe there's a problem. So you need to figure out how to do something. And maybe you have a few different potential responses to try. So then we have the same structure of situation, problem, and response or responses. To take another example, let's say you want to ask me a question. You could start with the situation. So you're a final year PhD student and you need to update your literature review from a few years ago. That's important because the advice I give in that situation would be different to someone who's in the first year. Then you can say how you've tried to do it so far, or in other words, your response to the problem, and then the problems that you've run into doing it that way. And if you structure a question that way, you don't even need to ask the question because the structure has led me smoothly up to that point. So this way of thinking about structure is incredibly versatile, and it's what allows me to coach students from such a wide range of academic fields and give them advice on structure without knowing much about their subject. So it does take some practice, but once you get the hang of it, you can start to not only write faster, but to a much higher standard that is far easier for the reader to follow.